Hey everybody, welcome to Workforce Gaming. I'm Brad, here with Doug.
Hey.
This is part one of our soon-to-be
Shit.
three-part series on Mass Effect Legendary Edition.
I'm very excited for you, Brad.
Maybe part four, because I was even like, as I was playing this, I was like, maybe Andromeda wasn't as bad as I remember
Oh,
it.
God. Yeah.
That was my thought as I was going through this. But anyway, I love Mass Effect.
Mhm.
More than I remembered. I haven't touched Mass Effect since Andromeda came out, probably, 4 years ago?
Something like that, yeah.
And I haven't touched the original trilogy since I played through it. So this is the first time I've touched this game since probably just before 2. I think the last time I played it was just before 2 came out.
Sure.
And I haven't played any of the Commander Shepard games, the main trilogy, since release, which I think really kind of... It's one of those series that I feel like my opinion kind of dwindled on it over time. I think you kind of have two
Sure.
ways you go with older stuff where you're like, that has to be like amazing. Like I remember it being, and then you go and play it and you're like, ooh, I raised my expectations.
Sure.
Or you have the ones where it just kind of like fades and you're like, no, that was just a cool space story. Like that's all that was. And this one is in the category of like, oh, that was just a cool space story. And then as I'm playing, I'm like, this might actually be one of my favorite games ever. Like as I'm playing through this, I'm remembering bits and pieces of it. And as I'm going through, I'm like, oh yeah, this is really cool. Oh, I forgot how much they set that up. Like it's just so good. And I can't wait for part 2 because I know that's the really good one, and that's the one that in my brain I'm like, this is one of my favorite games of all times. And this one, like, it was one of those things where like I never held the first one in high esteem, and I honestly meant to go and replay it a couple of times, but every time you see anything about Mass Effect 1, it's oof, that gameplay though.
I remember that was my favorite one. And that's the thing I just remember. I keep hearing that, like, oh, Mass Effect 2 was really good. And I remember Mass Effect 1 to me was more JRPG-y, and I remember like being able to like command my squad members to go certain areas. I really like that. And then Mass Effect 2 is like, you don't need to do that. It's like, okay.
Just shoot.
Yeah.
And I think they adjusted it because it plays now in Legendary Edition how I like it plays in my brain, which is a lot of like shoot. Oh yeah, use the support ability. Shoot. Oh yeah, support ability.
Sure.
And that's basically how the gameplay works now. And I do remember it being much more that RPG feel to it.
Yeah.
Because I think that was always the big disappointment, quote unquote, with 2 is that it dropped a lot of the RPGs to just run around and shoot, which fits more into mine. But I really did forget how well this game introduces you to an obscenely large amount of info in like 15 hours. There is more story development, world building in this game than I could possibly even talk about for 45 minutes or an hour, just because everything has a justification. And everything has not only a justification, but a 6-paragraph codec entry justification.
Are you a codec reader in general or no?
It depends on the game. In Mass Effect, yes.
Okay. Yeah.
It depends on how into the world I am. A lot of things where like, if it's just something where I'm just playing just kind of to get through and just to enjoy and sit back and go, okay, this is a fun game, then no, it'll be like, all right, let's skim through this. But this is one where it's like every time it pops up, it's like, ooh, I would love to know more about the Asari government structure. Please tell me how this great race of diplomats came to be.
I remember sometimes in Mass Effect, like, I know we're not talking about 2 and that sort of thing, but I remember like plot points would sort of resolve themselves like in messages. They're like, hey Shepard, thanks for helping out at the mining colony, thanks. And then I was like, oh, I guess that's how that story ended.
Yeah, like every side mission is just like, oh yeah, I appreciate it. You found my 3 dead commandos. Thanks, Shepard.
You get an email. You don't even get a call. I just remember you get an email.
Yeah, exactly. And just like, yep. But just the world building of this is so well done, and just everything has a point. And I love the way that the story is. And again, I'm always weird about stories for old games like this, just because there are a lot of people playing it for the first time, but it's also like 15 years old. So yeah, I'm not gonna like tamp down things, but at the same time, like, I'm not going to sit here and go, the ending is, so just bear that in mind if you haven't played. The way that the story is structured is it's basically like, go check this out, there's something weird going on. And the way that everything's developed is it's all based on just, we randomly stumbled into old-ass technology in the middle of space. Mm-hmm. Which is such a unique way to present, like, this idea of, like, exploring the galaxy. It's not that we built a bunch of stuff, it's that we found this thing
Sure.
and basically reverse engineered off of this thing how to do interstellar travel and how to do all this crazy stuff with our spaceships and with our weapons and all our other tech based off this one thing that we just randomly happened to stumble into.
Mm-hmm. That's pretty cool. Yeah.
And it's one of those things where I kind of forgot about it because it's like, oh yeah, I know there's this old race, and that's kind of the first game is you're investigating this old race and what happened to them. But going back and playing it now, I think I really got a new appreciation for how well that plays into it, kind of knowing the story and where it's going and going, okay, like you stumble into this, and then ultimately as you go through the game, you realize like this stuff doesn't necessarily just happen. It's very directed, and the game kind of gets you this idea of like all these races stumbling and converging on this point. It's like presented as such a unique coincidence in the beginning, and by the end it all has this very, very important meaning to it, and everything that you're like, man, that's kind of cool that like all these things just kind of point you to this point, and that's like, well, wait a minute, that's too nice of a coincidence that everybody found these at the same time and over the course of this, and it's so cool how it sets it up.
Yeah. That's cool. I mean, because you actually read a ton of space stuff. I know, like, space is like your genre. Like,
read is an incorrect word.
you, well, I
enjoy,
you
look
enjoy
at,
space
watch,
stuff. Yes.
Play is probably a better way. I would not go so far as to say read, but anyway,
sure. But I mean, like, you consume a lot of this media. It's like, is Mass Effect kind of stand maybe not above, but like shoulder to shoulder with some of the other stuff that you enjoy, or is it just
Oh, for sure. And I think again, I didn't have that thought a week and a half ago.
Sure.
Mass Effect, whatever.
Yeah.
And replaying it and kind of seeing it all again and knowing the overall picture and just, I don't know if I was more into the story this time or what, but just I do have a much greater appreciation for it. And I do think just that world building and the lore and just everything that they set up in this is on equal playing fields with almost any other sci-fi universe, just the way that everything goes, because there is so much detail. There is so much specifics of how this came to be and why it came to be and how the way that it came to be influences everything else. A lot of it has to do with humanity just like being the new assholes around.
Oh,
and like that's always such a good thing. It's like, dude, we've been set up like this for like hundreds of years, and you come here and you've been here for 20 years and you think you're big shit. Like that's basically the premise of this, is that Shepard is the first Spectre, like elite agent ever that's a human, and they're like, well, we'll give it a try because you're cocky sons of bitches, but here you go, try it, and if it works out, and then of course your whole thing is like, no, like all the like this other dude is this other race, and it gets into all this stuff of like how humanity's kind of trying to almost like upend and force its way into this really diplomatic thing, and everybody views humans as just this asshole race. It's like, we're going to colonize everything.
Is there something, do you when you're playing it now as like a 30 something, is there stuff that like is maybe it's just, are you just remembering things like, oh, I remembering that, or are you getting like a new appreciation for the story? Because like the thing you said, like, oh, the humans are the assholes and they're colonizing everything, is probably not a thought that you might have had
in high school.
When you said high school.
I feel like, and I do think that's part of it, because again, you pick up on those things where it's like, in my mind, I'm like, oh, the dialogue option is like, what are these other people doing? Or like, ooh, like, you're probably right. Like, we should settle this down and tamp this down. We shouldn't just go colonizing everybody's planet and going, well, we were there. Why aren't you helping us, assholes? Like, it does very much have that, like, okay, like, clearly humanity's in the wrong in a few points. And, like, you can play your Shepard very much as, like, frankly, like a racist asshole. Or you can play your Shepard as, like, okay, like, chill. We can all be friends here, guys. Like, just because you've been around and just because you kind of came from this way. And I do think some of that I'd have a much greater appreciation for now than I did before. And there's a character who is very skeptical of aliens, another human character. And I don't think I ever picked up on that before. It's just like, that makes sense. Like, there's these are weird aliens. Like, it's like, oh no, you're trying to tell a greater story here that I don't think I picked up on the first time through, which I do think helps appreciate it more now with like, okay, not 16-year-old, like, I shot some aliens on a big spaceship.
Yeah. And I assume you weren't a dumb 16-year-old, but it is funny, kind of like these stories, like
everyone's a dumb 16-year-old.
That's true. That's true. But it's funny kind of seeing these things like, oh, I can see the 30, 40-year-old writer, what they're trying to do here and that kind of thing. I was just curious if it had that kind of, because that actually makes me more interested in maybe going back to it. What kind of Shepard are you playing, by the way? Are you playing Fem Shep or Male Shep?
I just played Mail Shep just because that's what I played originally, so that's just in my mind.
Sure.
I was always pictured as. No character customization at all. I don't deal with that. Nope. I
It's
click.
so gross. I can't believe
It gives you the option of like John Shepard, Jane Shepard, customize Shepard, and like, nope, John Shepard. Let's get this thing going. Let's move on.
To be fair, the Mass Effect, I remember Mass Effect 2. It imported my Mass Effect 1 character, and I was like, my guy just is ugly. I'll use your male model default guy. No, but going back, I want to try the Femme Shep stuff because I heard the voice acting she does is really good. So I'm curious about that. Are you Paragon though? Like all the way?
Oh, all the way, yeah. Like
Okay.
I think like almost maxed out versus like the little tiny bit in the other one.
Sure. Do you feel like the Paragon option is sometimes the wrong option though? Like not the option you would necessarily choose?
Yeah, and that's why I have a little bit on the other one.
Okay.
I definitely I like to play like where it's like I would play this the way I would. There are some
Sure,
times where
yeah.
like the quote unquote mean evil's too harsh of a word. The you know what I mean? The
Yeah, space
anti-hero
asshole.
route is
Yeah.
the anti-hero space asshole route is actually probably more like the reasonable thinking one, other than the just
Yeah.
come on guys, let's be friends. It's like
Sure.
dude shooting me in the face, like not a time to go, come on guys, let's be friends. But
Yeah. Oh, interesting. Yeah.
yeah, I do have to say there are some things in this too where it's like this is very much an old game that they didn't do much with. Some of the level design and just like the maps and stuff are just bad. There are a couple of levels early on where it is like hallway, 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 open room, hallway, 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 open room, hallway, 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 open
Sure.
room.
Yeah.
And it's just like, man, I can't. I'm just bored right now.
Yeah.
It looks fine. Again, this is only based off Mass Effect 1, so I don't know if they did more with some of the other ones, but it looks
Yeah.
fine. I'm playing on PS5 and just it looks fine.
It looks okay. You're not blown away like you like.
There's a few cool shots where it's like big environmental pieces, but like just the minute by minute gameplay is just kind of it's whatever. But
So what's pulling you forward then? If it's not, I mean, if it's like, hey, the gameplay's not good. It's just the story, the character. Is it?
this is story.
Is it the story, the characters, or the world? Like, what's the thing? Because you talked more about the world and like the bit of the story, which but everyone's I love the characters, but you haven't actually you never talked about you haven't talked about them yet.
The characters are fine. I'm again when I look at sci-fi,
they're fine.
when I look at sci-fi, Rex is great. But why Rex is cool is because of the genophage.
Oh, sure.
And because of what's going on in the world is why Rex is such a good character, because his character is based solely on this thought of okay, the galaxy pretty much neutered his species and they're in such this weird position, and all of his character is based off of what's happened in the world. And all of the other characters, they get a lot of their characteristics from the world and what's going on.
Mm-hmm. So okay, so the interest you're finding is not necessarily these characters themselves and they're cheeky one-liners or whatever. It's their context within the universe. That's the thing that's kind of interesting and pulling you forward.
Yeah, it's 100% that context and how things build and where they fit into everything else. Because again, the races are so clearly defined as this is their role in the universe. This is what they do. This is how they handle things. And that character, I think, just always really embodies that really well.
Yeah.
So I think the character is a reflection of that more so than the world being a reflection of that character, if that makes sense.
Sure. Yeah. No, I guess I can see what you mean. Yeah. But it's more that, again, it's the world stuff and and how those characters sit in the world rather than, hey, those characters are in and of themselves an interesting thing.
Yeah, and again, the characters are interesting. They have good backstories. I did a couple of their side missions. There's good stuff happening with them.
Yeah.
The other stuff is just where my attention's drawn to is what's the bigger picture? Mm-hmm. How is this all happening? What's going on with it? That's much more what drives me forward is seeing, okay, how does the galaxy respond to this? Because the events that are happening, you can very clearly see, okay, there's a couple scenes with Rex where Rex is we're doing it this way because these guys did this to my people, and that's my driving motivation for this. And then you see, okay, Ashley's going at this from the purely I am a human, humans need to be in charge, and going that route to it. So again, I think that overall story is leading the characters to go in interesting directions.
Yeah. Are you excited? Because you kind of know. It's kind of interesting, kind of okay, it's okay, I'm going to dedicate 50 hours to a story I already know the ending of. Are you enjoying that like are you okay with that? Is it just like such a feels like a new experience and that sort of thing or what?
I think because it's been so long
Yeah.
that it definitely feels new.
Okay, sure. Yeah,
And like I said, I feel like I'm seeing it kind of like a little bit of a different perspective. There's a lot that I forgot about. Like I was like, oh yeah, I'm about done with this. I remember this. And then I was like, oh wait, I thought this was in 2. This is weird.
yeah. Sure.
Somewhere in there I messed up and it just didn't quite connect. So that's funny. But no, I'm excited about it. I think I've had this I never really replayed games until the last like year or two when a lot of these remasters started becoming like a big
Yeah,
thing.
sure.
And I'm really finding a lot of enjoyment out of going back and playing things that I kind of forgot about.
Yeah, yeah. I guess I could definitely see that. Yeah, because I think the game's so big, it's probably just easy to forget just like the little stuff in there. But I feel like when I played Tony Hawk, it's like, yep, it's Tony Hawk. I remember most of this stuff. But with like a denser game, it's interesting going back and replaying a denser game because there's going to be stuff you didn't remember and that sort of thing. So you're like really excited to get into Mass Effect 2 now. Are you like just back on board? Like I'm gonna get 2 and 3, and like you're excited to see that story. Because I think Jack, I like Jack. I think she's always my favorite character, but she doesn't show up till 2.
I am. I purposely am like, I'm gonna take a break. I'm gonna like slow burn this.
Oh, nice. Like a fine wine.
Exactly. I'm not gonna run through this all right now. Like we'll put a couple little things in between here. We'll play one. Put a little baseball in there.
That makes me feel good because I don't know if I'm ready to record next week Mass Effect 2 and then the week after Mass Effect 3 it's like so Mass Effect's still pretty good and then
This might be our long running 3-part segment.
Yeah.
Anyway, we are Workforce Gaming. You can follow us on Twitter at Workforce Gaming. Subscribe to us wherever you're listening, and we will see you later.
Bye.